Hi everybody, it's Laura. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. Today I have a layout that I made using the Shimmerz Color Kitz collection for April. So I'm a little behind on voicing over my videos, but I did want to get this up on my channel, so here we go. I am of course using the pattern papers from the April Color Kits, and I really liked this striped paper because I liked the way it had so many bright colors from the collection on it. So I thought that I would use that on the right hand side of my layout. I wanted to mat this piece of striped paper, so I used one of the strips. It's either a negative or a film strip, and you saw the paper that came from at the very beginning of the video. I decided to just use the pink one. You could see here that I cut it up a little bit because, again, I just want to use this as a mat. And I really like the way that pattern looked with the little squares. So I thought that that would look nice on the right-hand side. And then the left-hand side, I'm planning my photo over some part of it. So I just wanted to have a little hint of pink. I wasn't sure exactly where I was going to put the photo, but I guess that probably it would cover up that little center area where I didn't have any pink. And then I was thinking, you know what, let me just go ahead and put a small piece of pink paper in here. It turned out to be totally covered up, but I know that with my luck, at the last minute, I'll decide to put it in a place where you can see the little open space. So I decided to just fill it in, but no need to worry, the photo is going to cover up that area. So I use another pattern paper for this photo mat, and I love this orangey color. So I matted the photo using some white cardstock, and then again I used this pattern paper, which is a solid. And then I decided that I wanted to use these ephemera pieces. I loved the flowers. I love the pink ones and the yellow ones, and the way that those ephemera pieces kind of curved a little bit. And then in the center, I put another ephemera piece that's larger flowers. So I kind of like that combination. And then on the left, I use a couple more ephemera pieces. I have those two strips, one of them that has the same stripes as I have on the right. So I thought that that would be a good way to mirror what's going on the right. And then I also have a little, I think it's a gingham. It's a pink gingham. And there's another strip of that right to the left of the photo. And then underneath the photo, I have a little banner. I love using banners on my layouts. So I'm trying to arrange the flowers just to get them looking the way that I want them. And then I love adding leaves to flowers, right? That just makes sense. It always is a nice combination. I hate to have leaves without any flowers, so I decided to add in a couple of the ephemera pieces that were leaves. And I love the way you could see that there are some darker and lighter green leaves. So I tried to kind of spread those lighter leaves out a little bit. I didn't want to cluster them. I wanted them to be spread apart. So you could see that there are mainly kind of that darker green color and just a couple of the lighter green. So what I'm doing on this layout is what I'll sometimes do when I have a mixed media background planned. I'll make the layout and I will attach all of the elements together, the photo and the pattern paper and whatever embellishments I'm using. I try to make it one unit. And then this helps me when I add the mixed media to the background. I know exactly where I want to put it. Sometimes when I work the other way and I make the mixed media background first, then I have to kind of go back in and add a little bit more when I start layering things on top because I didn't really plan where I'm putting everything. But in this layout, I really am not very precise with the sprays in the background. There's a large area of color, so you'll see that in a little while. So I love this little bunny, and it's perfect because this is an Easter layout. You could see that my niece, who is on the left-hand side of the layout, she's holding a little bunny. That's the indication that it's an Easter photo. And then I thought that this little dot that had the butterfly on it would also be really pretty. So I added that right next to the bunny. And then there's that bow kind of making a diagonal with all of these embellishments. And that bunny that my niece is holding, it is a Hallmark bunny. It's one of those ones where you squeeze its hand and it sings a song and moves around. But I realized after a while that I could not put the decorations away with the batteries still in them. So I removed the batteries, and now I'm just a little bit too lazy to put batteries back in. But they're really cool. I guess I wouldn't be so lazy if I didn't know that I would have to just take them right out again a few days later when I put them away. So I still have all of my Easter decorations from Hallmark that sing songs and move around, but most of them don't move around because I don't have batteries in them. But they're still very cute. And those date back to the days where I used to go to the Hallmark store like the day after the holiday so that I could buy all of the decorations at discount prices. But I don't do that anymore. I'm so done with collecting decorations. I have way too many for each holiday, so now I'm not interested in adding to my collection. So now I'm creating the background, and as I mentioned, I have that large unit that I can continue to layer on top of the background and see if I like the way that it looks. And it gives me the opportunity to see if I like the color and see if I like where I added the color. It's, I think, very useful. However, for the next layout I make for the April kit, I do the opposite, and I actually think I like that layout a little bit better. So I feel like you never know. Every layout is an adventure, and it's always like a brand new experience. So earlier I used a pencil just to kind of give me an idea of where the photo and the pattern paper was going to be, and that helped me to figure out where I wanted to put the color in the background. And the color that I used was a Spritz called You're the Zest, and it's a perfect yellow color to go with the pattern paper. And then I wanted to add some texture to the background, but I just wasn't in the mood to add white. So I decided that I would add the Shimmerz Paints right to the modeling paste. This is the Crafters Workshop modeling paste. And I liked the way it added a nice tint, and it's not as dramatic of a look as the white against the yellow, which would have been the look if I didn't add the paint to the modeling paste. But I just wanted to try something a little bit different, and I was happy with the way that it looked. So I didn't like the way that second application of modeling paste came out on the bottom. So I just used my palette knife, I scraped it away, and then I added it again, which is one of the nice things about this technique. You really can cover up a lot of mistakes. And the stencil that I'm using is a little circle stencil. The circles are all like slightly different sizes, but still around the same size, if that makes sense. And then I was really careful not to smudge what I already put down with the stencil, which is something that I will sometimes do. But this time I was pretty successful at not doing that. Now, I use my heat tool all the time, but I have noticed that when I don't use the heat tool, the paper, it doesn't curl up as much, and if it does curl up, it will sometimes go back to its original shape. Once I use the heat tool, it tends to warp, and it's a little hard to get rid of that warping. So it probably would be easier if I dried the modeling paste that I put down already, but like I said, I really would rather use the heat gun as little as possible, so I just try to be careful with the stencil that I don't smush what I already have down. Oh, to mix things up a little bit in the background, I used a Vibez called Pink Lemonade just to keep the whole background from being the same color. I wasn't 100% sure if I liked that though, or if I wanted it to just be yellow. So you could still see a few touches of it, and I think that looks okay, but I decided to kind of tone it down a little bit with a piece of paper towel and some water. And then, of course, I had to add some yellow splatters, which I did earlier, and now I'm adding some watered-down white acrylic paint splatters. So because the background is yellow, which is a fairly light color, the white splatters aren't as noticeable as they are on some layouts where I'll use a darker color. But I still think that all the little touches add to the look of the layout, the modeling paste and the splatters of the Shimmerz color and also the white splatters. I think that these all work together to just make the layout a little bit more interesting. So now I'm going to work on my title, and these are some Heidi Swap letters that I got at the dollar store a while back, and they're the kind of letters that are made to add color to. So I thought these would be perfect to use with Shimmerz Paints, and I wrote out the cousins. So earlier you might have seen I had some other letters that look very similar, but what I did was I used all the smaller letters, the ones that are the same size as the word the, because that's a smaller font that was included in the same pack of letters, and I just thought it looked too small, so I decided that I was going to use the larger letters for cousins, and then I was going to use the smaller letters for the word the. And just to clarify, I said that earlier in the video I had some other letters. They were just laying there on the table, and I just wanted to just let you know that those were different letters than these ones are. I used 3 different colors to paint them. The green color is called Lawn and Order. That's a Shimmerz. I also used a Shimmerz called Marigold, and then I used a Vibez called Pink Lemonade. I made all of the letters in the word the different colors, and then the green color is just for the word cousins. So I thought that the layout could use a little something more, so I'm using some of the sentiments that were in the ephemera pack. The sentiments say some funny business, hello sunshine, bloom, hop, repeat. And I thought those not only were cute sayings, but they also just kind of, I think, finished off the layout on the top. It was looking like it needed a little something there. And I'm also including a butterfly. That's another ephemera piece. And I always feel obligated to pop butterflies up on some foam just to give them a little bit of dimension. Nothing else on the page is really dimensional other than the dots, the butterfly dot that's next to the bunny. That's just naturally dimensional. And then the letters are a little bit thicker than just letter stickers, but the butterfly is the thing on the layout that's the most dimensional. So I love to ink the edges of things. For some reason, though, on the title, I decided just to ink the edges of the green letters. I didn't ink the other letters. I used a little bit of Distress Oxide in Peled paint, and I added a little bit of shading to the edges, which I think makes the letters stand out a little bit more. I also added a little goose and a cute little hat to that title cluster. Or actually, it could also be a duck. And I attached all the letters down using some adhesive. So it's very rare that I'll make a layout to which I don't add enamel dots or jewels or pearls. So for this layout, I just felt like enamel dots went best. So I put a white enamel dot on the banner that's underneath the photo. And then I added some light and dark pink dots to the pink flowers. And then kind of a reddish color, a reddish pink color to the yellow flowers that are on the top. And I love adding things like enamel dots and bows to my layouts because I feel like it's nice to have all different materials and textures on the page. And then I decided to use some very small black enamel dots to add a little bit of emphasis to some of the animals on the page. I mainly use them as eyes. And that completes this layout, and thank you so much for watching. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who leaves me such sweet comments all the time. I really appreciate it, and I read everyone, and I just love them. Thank you so much. And it also really helps out my channel or any YouTuber's channel when you give them a like or add a comment. So please don't forget to check out the Shimmerz Paints website. They have the April Color Kitz collection and the brand new May 1 too. Thanks again for watching, everybody. I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.